Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzick, and to my left, we got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, Cutthroat.
Gene, how are you feeling, man? You know, we're a week out from Thanksgiving. We got a lot of sports going on. You know, I know you're gonna tell everybody how it's gonna just be the two of us, but we got a lot of stuff to talk about for it to be, you know, November.
It is. Listen, I'm gonna tell you something right now. It's a weird day, bro. November 19th. Want to dedicate this show from me personally to my dad. It's his birthday. He would have been 71 today. Thinking about you, Pop. It's also the 2-year anniversary since I lost my grandfather. And today we actually went down and buried the ashes of my godfather with his parents. So it's an interesting day, man. No Shally today. I don't know if you want to share anything in particular, dedicate anything specifically. If not,
I'll wait till the end. We'll get.
I just want to let you know you're in my prayers, my love. I love you.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
But I'm fired up to talk sports, man. This is normalcy to me. And the fact that today is episode 267, I don't know if you remember your area codes, but that's like the local Selly number for Philadelphia.
I'm aware.
Today is episode Philly.
I am well aware. It is episode Philly. I will give you that for sure.
But I'm fired up, though, bro. I mean, honestly, I want to talk some sports, get into some conversations, and just have some fun for a little bit. Take my mind off the rest of the world. And that's what a lot of us use sports to do. Take our minds off a lot of things in the world. You want to get started with Hot Wire? What you want to start with?
Absolutely. And I mean, it's only right, you know, Gene, it's, you know, you talk about it being episode Philly. I know you guys have Temple, but I know a lot of the resident people of Philadelphia are fans of the Penn State Nittany Lions. Well, their former head coach has a new home. Virginia Tech has decided to go ahead and hire on James Franklin to be their head coach. I know you're happy that he's out of town. I know you're happy that, you know, Penn State, you know, has a shot to see improvement, you know, in the upcoming years here. But what are your reactions to James Franklin getting hired on, you know, before even college football season ends and, you know, landing a new job at Virginia Tech?
I'll be honest with you. The only thing that makes me happy about this, I don't care about James Franklin. I'm so gone with James Franklin, is the fact that the negotiated buyout allows Penn State more money to go spend to get a better head coach. I was kind of getting worried. I was getting worried that they were going to go the cheap route, grab a coordinator, you know, up and coming guy from some other brand of football. No, man, bring in the good stuff. Bring in a guy that's going to be here long term. Bring in a guy that wants to be in Penn State with Penn State. What's good, Saigon? How you feeling? Your Seahawks let me down. I thought they were going to win, but what's up? What's up, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's how you were going to feel about it. I mean, the buyout is the important part if you're a Penn State fan. Regardless of how you feel about James Franklin, you're glad that he's out the building. I think it's interesting, though, that he took this job so fast. I thought with Penn State ultimately owing him the money still, I know there was a clause in this contract that he had to go look for a job. But if I'm James Franklin, I'm like, hey, all these jobs are open right now. I don't have to rush to make my decision because essentially James is the first domino to fall in the college, you know, coaching carousel. So I thought it was interesting, though, but I do think the fit makes a ton of sense, though, for him. James Franklin is a guy who won't win you big games. However, he is very good at recruiting, and he is very good at rebuilding a program. Penn State was not having much success post-Paterno. They brought in Franklin to change that, and that's exactly what he was doing. He's a guy who could win 9-10 games a year, just wasn't going to get you over the hump there. So I think for Virginia Tech, that's like the perfect kind of coach to bring you back to relevancy, especially in the ACC.
I agree with you 100%. I think James Franklin's perfect for mid-tier schools like Vanderbilt, with which he came from, Virginia Tech, or where he's going. He's just not there for the big program. And you look at a lot of guys aren't. A lot of guys choke in that big moment. I think Penn State needs to bring in a guy that's ready to, even if they've won it at a different level, that has won before, that understands what it means to win football games and win big football games. We don't care if you beat Minnesota. Sorry, I don't care if Penn State beats Northwestern. It doesn't matter if they win the series over Iowa. I need them to be able to beat Ohio State, and not just beat Ohio State in happy value, beat Ohio State in Ohio State. Go to Big House and knock out Michigan. Go to Oregon next year and beat the Oregon Ducks. I don't want a guy that's going to, he's really good versus non-top 10 teams. Cool. Great.
Now what? Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. And I think that is this is ultimately a good move for him. It's like one of those non-pressure situations. They're going to give him plenty of time to rebuild. I think people will want to go play for James Franklin. He does have a track record of getting, players to the NFL through that Penn State program. So again, I don't think James Franklin's necessarily a bad coach. I think he's a bad big time coach. So good for Virginia Tech.
That's a perfect way to put it. He's a bad big time coach. And that's the problem. We can't have that. That's not what we do. Now Philadelphia's got a couple Super Bowls under their belt. We're now cities of champions here. Lying to ourselves, but that's okay.
No, that's funny. But anything else with James Franklin? I just wanted to bring that up. I know he's always a hot button topic on the show, especially during the college football season. So maybe this will be the last time that we really have to speak on him too much here, because he's finally out of your hair.
I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I am so annoyed that you guys went out and spent your real money on that ugly ass sweater that never gets worn. I understand a gag gift, but I don't know what you spent on it. I'd rather donate it, like autism awareness or something that needs heart health. You guys spent money on a gag gift, which I'm honestly, it's just holding up. I still have it too.
Good.
In the closet.
Good. You should have wore it today. It's just in honor of Franklin's buyout.
Not. I will never wear that moron on my shirt.
All right. Well, speaking of morons, let's get into this next story here.
Speaking of morons, great way to bring that in.
Jamar Chase of the Cincinnati Bengals has been suspended for one game after it has been revealed that he spits on Jalen Ramsey. And I say, speaking of this moron, one, because obviously it is dumb to spit on somebody. We went over the whole Jalen Carter situation. He didn't even spit directly, on Dak. He spit towards him, with that. I think this situation is even worse than what that was. Yeah. But to go into the press conference after the game and to double down and say, "Oh no, I didn't spit on anybody," and obviously we have the video, so we saw it. And then your appeal was, "Oh, well, if I was trying to directly spit at him, I would have spit towards his face mask, or I would have made it higher. So you would have known that I was directly trying to spit on him." It's just an idiotic defense. And but something I definitely wanted to bring up here, because when the best receiver in the league gets suspended for doing something stupid, I feel like it's something that we have to talk about.
No, 100%. I watched that game, and I remember I told you guys last week, I said my best bet in the NFL is the Steelers -5.5. Still cashed, still was good, still went 2-1 on the NFL slate. But I was watching this. I'm trying to understand why Jalen Ramsey was that heated and that upset, why he threw a punch. I mean, he's been in the league a long time. He's an instigator. That's what he is. I remember when he got AJ Green's head so bad that AJ Green took him by the neck, tackled him, and threw some punches at him. Mm-hmm. He's a good antagonizer. So was Gardner Johnson. But Jalen Ramsey doesn't lose his cool like that very often.
Yeah.
He talks a lot of shit. He might get a personal foul, but I've never seen him go at somebody like that. Now, it was very obvious when you watch that game. Go back 3 weeks when the Bengals played the Steelers on Thursday Night Football. Jamar Chase humiliated those guys.
Yep.
I mean, he was unguardable. And the goal in this game was to hit him, to be dirty with him, to push him around. The Steelers 100% wanted to get physical with him, hit him late, piss him off, get under his skin. And listen, Jalen Ramsey's not innocent. He's an antagonizer. He's not an angel. But Jamar Chase is 100% dead wrong for this. And act like you didn't spit. I guess he's saying I yelled at him and spit came out of my mouth as I was talking to him with it. But it's so clear that he you can see the motion of him
Right.
spitting at him. Like,
Right.
I just, to me, it's
And
laughable.
and it's on video. Like, I don't know why he thought he was going to get away with this. Like, I know it's one thing if, certain things were said or whatever the case may be. This is an NFL stadium. There are cameras absolutely everywhere. Someone is going to catch this. So, in the midst of everything that's going on with this Bengals team, I know you said you were watching the game, G. I'm not sure if you were watching on Red Zone, if you were actually watching
I watched
the
that game. That was the game I had on the TV.
Yeah, so you would have saw then that whole drive, Jamar and Jalen were going at it. Like literally the play before, like it happened, they had the unsportsmanlike conduct both ways. And ultimately it looked like it stemmed from Jamar was blocking Jalen. And then I think Jalen kind of just pushed him over, like basically like, get out of here.
Yep.
So Jamar was, pissed about that, and they were going back and forth with it. And, ultimately for that to lead to you spitting on him, though, is crazy. So I think it's a suspension, well-deserved. Get him the one game, set the precedent. That's not okay. And I feel like the league, really did a good job of setting that example with Jalen Carter. And like I said, I think this is worse than the Jalen Carter situation. So, good job for the league actually, holding this guy accountable and not hearing the BS argument with it.
See, the Jalen Carter thing, when it came out later, I know Dak Prescott wasn't going to get suspended, but it was so obvious that Dak spit at Jalen Carter. He didn't spit on him, spit at him. And then Jalen Carter getting thrown out of the game immediately was the right move. He should have been thrown out of the game for spitting on Dak Prescott. That worked as his suspension. This happened, I think it was the end of the third or early fourth.
Yep.
It was right around that area where it would not have acted as Jamar played the rest of the game. So him being suspended a full game is the precedent in the NFL.
For sure. For sure. But that is all that I had with, Jamar and his suspension there. Anything else you want to touch on with this?
No, sir. No, sir. Ready to rock and roll.
All right, let's keep it moving then. We're going to go over to the diamond. We're going to talk a little bit of baseball here. Obviously season's all wrapped up and, players got their hardware, and I would say it was highlighted by, Aaron Judge getting another MVP award on the AL side of things and Shohei Ohtani getting yet another MVP on the NL side of things. With the Cy Young, you had Paul Skeens and Tariq Skubal, taking those respective awards in their divisions there. But what were your thoughts to the awards that were presented? I feel like you're going to tell me your gripe with the NL Cy Young, but I'm curious to hear what you got to say as a whole.
I don't have any gripe with the NL Cy Young. Obviously, this is the thing that I think is the most talked about, right? Aaron Judge winning the MVP versus Cal Riley. I want to remind people of this, right? It's what the voters think, but I don't think anyone's ever won an MVP and had a below 250 batting average. Cal Riley is much more valuable to the Seattle Mariners than Aaron Judge is to the Yankees. But that's not the precedent in which they set these awards up for. Aaron Judge had much better at the plate numbers, overall numbers. Granted, he was in liability in the outfield because he had no arm, but you can't bat less than 250 and expect to win the MVP. It's not a real thing. I love Dumper. Absolutely love him. I think he was more valuable this year than Aaron Judge. I think without Aaron Judge, the Yankees are still a good baseball team. I think without Cal Riley, Seattle doesn't sniff the playoffs. Just my opinion. With that being said, I honestly believe, and this is just that sometimes voter fatigue plays a role. And there's a guy that comes along that you haven't voted for, that you haven't seen, and you want to vote for him. Cal Riley was awesome for Seattle. But when everything's said and done, the right people won the awards. Shohei, Aaron Judge, Skubal, and Skeens, they're the best four players at their positions this past year. The league needs to change the name of the award from most valuable player to the best player. He's the best in the NL. He's the best in the AL. Who's the best pitcher? Oh, it's Skeens. He's the best pitcher. like change the names of the awards. I think one award that I found very interesting was the Manager of the Year in the AL was Stephen Vogt.
Yep.
And
repeat both leagues.
Well, I'll tell you why I found it interesting. You imagine how good of a manager you have to be to deal with all the shit that the Cleveland Guardians dealt with this past year and still make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. You got guys throwing pitches, getting arrested, a Class A. Like, it's insane what the Guardians had to go through this past year.
For sure. And I think a part of that, too, is, and I'm not saying, Class A or, Luis Ortiz were the reasons why the Guardians were where they were at, but you keep hearing about that 15.5 number with games back they were, within the division there. And I think I don't know what the exact date of that was, but I want to say the Class A and Ortiz situation where they were first placed on leave was sometime in the summer. I want to say it was just June area, sometime around then. And then that 15.5 number maybe was in early July or so. But with all of that said, you get both of those guys out of the locker room and the team rallies behind that and gets together and, this crazy comeback starts to happen there. So to your point, I mean, I definitely think that is a, commendable job there. And the fact that, you still make the playoffs and you were going through that, you lose, a guy who was the best closer in all of baseball in 2024. And then 2025, you're just rolling out, whatever you can. Cade Smith was a relief pitcher, middle reliever. You turn him to a closer and you find a way to get it done. So I'm with you. I mean, I definitely think Vogt deserved it. And there was many times throughout the year early where I was like, God, I can't wait for this guy to not be the manager of my team. But he definitely showed that he deserved it.
I'm just saying, when you have issues like that in your clubhouse, to be able to, I guess, respond to those issues and battle through adversity, that's what the definition of Manager of the Year is.
For sure.
Like I don't think, I think in baseball, the manager is the least effective out of all coaches in any sport, right? You have the least amount of, I think baseball, I mean this, football is the most.
For sure.
And then screw hockey, let's get that out of there. But out of the three, I would go football, basketball, and baseball being the manager. Just, okay, there's a lefty up. Let's get my best lefty reliever up here. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's much to do in a baseball match, but this was the definition of what a manager needed to do, keeping their ball club ready and making and pulling the right strings.
No, I mean, like I said, I 100% agree. So I was all for that. I do think it's going to be interesting moving forward here, though. Like I said, you have the two managers that won it last year, also won it again this year on the AL and NL side of things. And then Judge and Shohei almost feel like they win the MVP award every year. So I'm curious to see moving forward that voter fatigue that you mentioned. We've seen it rear its head in honestly the NFL and in the NBA when it comes to that MVP award. So I'm just wondering if there's ever going to be a time when you kind of start to see it happen. But I feel like if anything, this would have been the year. This would have been the year to get Cal the MVP and, say, they kind of both deserved it. But, essentially we want a new face in there. But, I mean, it's something that we'll have to kind of monitor moving forward there. It doesn't seem to be a problem now. I think they've done a good job of giving it to the guy who's deserved it, every year.
100%. Smooth.
All right, moving on here. Last topic of Hot Wire. Got a little bit of NBA action. I know we're going to touch NBA later on in the show here, but definitely want to touch on the Pelicans moving on from head coach Willie Green after a 2-8 start to the season. Now, with that said, the Pelicans have not seen really much success since Anthony Davis has been traded away. I think they made the playoffs one time as an 8 seed. Zion's consistently hurt. That roster's had so much turnover. I guess not that this move really matters because the Pelicans weren't ever going to be considered contenders this year. But what are your thoughts to the Pelicans making this move and, moving forward? What kind of direction do you potentially see them going?
I mean, they're the Wizards of the West, right? And I look at the Pelicans as a whole, and it just reminds me a lot of John Wall with Zion. I know that they're different positions, but like, oh, they could be good if their best player played more than 12 games. And that 6 years ago, we used to think the Wizards could be good if John Wall played and Bradley Beal played and those guys. And the culture's terrible. And then they went and bring in the pool party. That guy's a joke. Anywhere he goes, I don't know what Willie Green can do in that situation. And I'm nothing against Willie Green, I just think it's a dead job. And when you have that type of position in the NBA, you're kind of blessed with what's given to you. And here's why I look at, right? One of the best beginnings of the season is rookie Jeremiah Fears. He's been great. Right? Derek Queen, rookie. He's been great. That's the only thing I can look at the coach for. Now, you got to fire him. You got to change the voice. You got to change whatever you're doing. But in reality, it's not his fault that team is poorly constructed and injured constantly.
Absolutely. And I think the main one is that one that you mentioned about the rookies. And I get it. You don't want to necessarily have them get accustomed to this like losing culture. Like you eventually want that to turn around. But if they're having success early, I think you kind of let them rock. Like you're going to have an interim coach the rest of the season in James Borrego, who has, been a head coach before. So, I mean, you do have the experience on the bench and you're kind of essentially giving him a tryout to see if he can be the guy for you moving forward. But ultimately, I look at it the exact same way that you're looking at it. Fears and Queen have been two bright spots of that team, definitely pieces that you can build around in the future. Zion has been Zion. He's been okay while he's on the court, but he's already hurt. He's already missing games, and that's just been the story of Zion's career at this point. So I don't know what more they wanted Willie Green to do in this situation here, but I'm curious to see what direction they go. It feels like with as young as a team as they are, I almost feel like they have to go get like a younger coach that can grow with these kids, because the Pelicans are as far from win now mode as humanly possible. If anything, I'd say they go trade Zion. You rip that roster apart.
We're ready to move on.
Absolutely.
I'm ready to ask a question. We're going right to NFL, right?
Yes, sir.
I want to ask a question. I've been waiting to ask you this question. I haven't got a chance to talk to you about it.
Okay.
So I knew that I was going to talk about this. So in order for me to talk about it, I want to be educated. So This morning, like 7 a.m., I watched the All 22 of the Cleveland Browns versus the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay.
Dylan Gabriel goes out with a concussion. Shedeur Sanders makes his debut.
Yes.
I want to ask this question because I genuinely believe I hate doing this. I feel like I'm going to be on your side, and I don't want to be.
Okay.
I think Kevin Stefanski is the reason that Shedeur Sanders failed. And the part that gets me is when he talks about he had no reps. And Shedeur didn't say that, but Kevin did. Talked about he had no reps. It was brutal watching him. And what Baltimore did, to their credit, was they sent some of the most exotic blitzes at him. They sent blitz after blitz after blitz. They were lining up on the line of scrimmage and saying, we're going to hit you. And it resulted in a couple really nice throws. Like he threw a ball that should have been a touchdown. And like I don't think people talk about that. He threw a ball. It was a Harold Fanning, I think it was too, in the left corner of the end zone.
It was actually Gabe Larvadan, but
yep. But my point being is you had a 40 jersey on. I figure it was Fanning. Yeah. But I have no like mute button. Like there's no calling. So do you blame Shedeur's awful debut more on Shedeur, or more on the coaching staff for not having Shedeur ready?
So here's the thing. I would say I blame it more on the coaching staff because of what you just mentioned.
Yeah. I
feel like regardless of who's starting at quarterback, your backup quarterback has to have some type of reps,
100%.
like with the ones. And I get it. Dylan Gabriel is also a rookie. So if he's the starter, you want to get him as many reps as possible with the ones and get him acclimated to the team. But on the flip side of that, getting an additional just giving 2 to 3 reps to Shador to just know what it's like to throw to, the receivers, the tight ends, to block behind that offensive line. Like, I think that part of it is important. So I definitely put a lot of that on Stefanski. On the flip side of it, though, however, I think another part of it, though, is that Shador is, and granted, he is a rookie. This is his first time seeing true NFL action. He is still doing the exact same things that he was doing in college.
Yep, running backwards.
Like going backwards and going to just getting sacked and ultimately just getting turnovers. I mean, I was looking at the time frame of everything, and it ultimately said that the time frame of like him throwing the ball, it was the sixth slowest like time to release the ball in the league so far, like, this past week. So he's got to find ways to be better. That's got to get coached out of him at some point. I get it. The O-line, like the blitzes, the pressure and everything was there, but you have to find a way to at least learn from like that experience there. And he had one rollout that was pretty good, where it evaded pressure, threw a ball in the back of the end zone. It was an overthrow. But I feel like he just hasn't learned yet from his mistakes. And I get he's still a rookie, so he's got time, but that would have been the one thing I would have liked to see from Shador.
Kyle's always taking pot shots at Lamar. I'll say this, right? The Cleveland Browns defense in Cleveland is the best defense in football. The Cleveland Browns defense in Cleveland. Now on the road, I don't know what the hell happens. Something different happens.
For sure.
When they're home, and I blame that on Jim Schwartz. He was always like that in Philadelphia. At home, he was incredible. On the road, not so much. But by the way, internet, anybody out there, anybody that knows how to find people, find this guy and report him for the crap he just put on the screen. Find that screen name and report that scumbag. Do it. Somebody screenshot and send it to me. I'll do the work afterwards. But just want to follow up and just say that it was an ugly football game. I knew the Ravens would find a way to win it because the Browns do anything they can to lose football games. It's just
absolutely
in their DNA. Yeah, I agree. Isn't defense supposed to travel? It doesn't travel for Jim Schwartz. Didn't in Philadelphia, and it didn't in look at Jim Schwartz's home road splits as a defensive coordinator. It's wild. Another thing I want to bring up from this past week, and before we get into the main topic of the NFL, because I got to get something off. I just have to.
Okay.
Another thing I have to talk about this week is the allure of the Kansas City Chiefs over? Are they done? Is it? Is it like I heard all this is what I heard, right? I was told I was an asshole, a hater. I was nuts when I said the Chiefs aren't going to win the division. I said I said they'd be 5-5 after 10 games. I said they'd start 1-3, but they didn't start 1-3. They start 2-2. But the point being is, I predicted that. That was me. They look bad. I was told, Rashee Rice, as soon as he comes back, the Chiefs will be back. They have all these weapons, more weapons. I listened to Nick Wrong, and he goes on there and says, I'm not even worried about the Broncos in Denver. This is not even a game to me. I know the Chiefs won't lose this game. Appreciate you, Kyle. Thank you. But at the end of the day, I can't fathom. They're 0-5 in one-score games. They were 13-1 in one-score games for the two prior years.
That's one of those stats, though, that ultimately you play with fire, you're going to get burnt. And that's one of those things where they are getting burnt right now. The one thing that I will say, though, about that is this is a conversation that we had on this show last week. We talked about teams that could win the Super Bowl this year, and you skipped over Kansas City, and your exact words were, not even going to talk about Kansas City. I think that's an obvious one. They absolutely can win the Super Bowl this year. And I'm not saying that they're going to just go and flip a switch and turn it on and be a team that's in the playoffs, because at this point, they're going to need some help. They are not in a playoff spot right now. They're going to need teams in front of them to drop, a game or two moving forward here. So, but ultimately, though, when you have Patrick Mahomes, at the end of the day, that team just needs to get in. The conversations were, oh, we don't know if they can win if they don't have all roads going through Arrowhead. Well, they went on the road and they got win. Well, not, yeah, they went on the road. They got a win to ultimately get to the Super Bowl. So I don't even know if I have any reservations with this Chiefs team if they make it into the playoffs. Of course, making it to the playoffs is going to be the big thing, but even just seeing the remainder of their schedule, like I do see a lot of winnable football games for them.
I do too. I just wanted to kind of get your take on them because they lost another close game, another game in which Patrick Mahomes did not play well. But I don't see, and this will get into, I guess, the rest of the conversation. I don't see reports about Patrick Mahomes struggling. Is he still the best quarterback in football? I don't see any of that. He's playing like shit, but no one calls him out for it.
He has been. Ever since I was on the MVP train, he's been last month, he's not played well.
I mean, he played like shit in that football game. Like, let's call it the way it is. He was awful. Bo Nix outplayed him. No doubt in my mind. But he's also not running as much. And I think that's something that's interesting.
Well, he was their leading rusher through 5-6 weeks. So I don't know what changed with that. I don't know if, the duration of the season is kind of starting to catch up to him with that, but he was definitely running a lot more than normal earlier on in the year. I don't know what's changed with him with that, but here we are.
All right, let's move forward. I gotta share something with you. I have to share something. I need you to help me. Making a statement here. I want everyone to hear it. Philadelphia Eagles will not win the Super Bowl. Will not. Probably won't. Will not win the Super Bowl. I thank you, Verizon. I had the pleasure of sitting on the 50-yard line, row 1, right behind the Philadelphia Eagles bench. I mean, I'm talking stone's throw away from A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts. Those guys are right there. Offense one side, defense was a little to my right, but the offense was right there. And a lot of things that you don't see on TV, because there's only so many camera angles, are how players interact with each other. I thought that Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown didn't like each other. But you work for the same company. I've had open shifts with like people in cellular sales that I didn't like, but I still have conversations with them about who's up next, or like, did you do inventory?
Yeah,
these guys don't talk at all. If AJ sits on one side of the bench, Jalen goes and sits on the other side of the bench, and vice versa. When they warm up throwing the football, AJ gets his passes thrown to him by Tanner McKee, and Devontae, Jahan, Dallas get their passes thrown to him by Jalen Hurts. When they warm up on the sidelines, AJ doesn't go warm up with the team. And here's the wild part, right? You want to hear even wild? Did you know that AJ Brown doesn't get the play calls from Jalen Hurts? He doesn't go to the huddle. Sometimes he'll be on the side of the huddle, but his arm won't go in the huddle, and he'll look away. Schmitty walks up to him after the huddle and tells him to play. I've never seen anything like
That's
this.
ridiculous.
So what I did was I timelined everything. And I worked pretty hard on this. I used a little AI to help me fact check which weeks things happened. And honestly, I'm going to be honest, I was a little disappointed that more people didn't comment or talk about it, but I want to read it, if you don't mind, on air. Because I worked hard on it. So I need to figure out what the hell happened, right? I need to understand why. and how. Like, these things happen. So there's a detailed story I created with AI, using all the information I've gathered, and AJ Brown got this far. Tight friendship. Hurts and AJ were extremely close when AJ arrived in Philadelphia. They sat together. They joked on the sidelines. They celebrate touchdowns. AJ called Hurts his brother. Hurts pushed the Eagles to trade for him. They worked out in the offseason together on camera. They were playful, laughing, making physical contact. There was zero tension visible. None. It's all important. The fall off didn't come from a slow build of frustration. It was instant. The first visible break, the shift happened mid-2023. Wasn't major. AJ got emotional about targets. Hurts calmed them down, and they were fine by the next week. That wasn't the real fracture. The real flip, the true they don't speak anymore moment, happened early in 2024. That's the first time AJ and Hurts sat on completely opposite sides of the bench. No eye contact, no conversation, no acknowledgement after plays, no interaction in the tunnel before the game, no handshakes, no my guy energy. People thought at first it was a bad game. Then it showed up every single week afterwards. So week 3, the first full freeze out. Hurts sits with the offensive lineman. AJ sits alone or with Devontae. They don't look at each other. Week 4, same seating, exact seating. Camera catches AJ getting hyped with teammates, laughing, talking, but not once near Hurts. Hurts keeps a straight face, doesn't approach him. Week 5, a touchdown was scored. AJ celebrates with literally the entire offense and coaches. Hurts walks away, doesn't even look back. This is not I'm mad about targets. This is I don't mess with you. Week 6, the offense struggles. They stand next to each other during a drive, but don't say a single word. AJ looks everywhere except at Hurts. Hurts looks at the tablet or coaches. Week 7, reporters begin asking questions because the body language looks hostile. Both said same cold, generic answer. We're good. Neither smiles while saying this. Hurts' voice is monotone. AJ looks annoyed. Week 8 was when Brandon Graham casually mentions in an interview that things have changed a little bit between them. That was the first public acknowledgement from inside the building. Veteran players never say that unless something real has happened. The locker room patterns. In early seasons, Hurts and AJ were often seen next to each other. They joked in interviews. Their lockers were 2 lockers away. They answered questions lightheartedly. AJ moved his locker. They avoid being in the same interview frame. If Hurts speaks, AJ leaves the area. If AJ speaks, Hurts distance himself. No jokes. No, that's my brother. No interactions during media periods. NFL players fake things like this all the time. They're not even trying to fake it. The all-field absence, the biggest red flag of them all, they stopped hanging out off the field. They used to train together, post selfies, bring each other up in interviews, workout clips, locker room moments. In 24 and 25, there was zero evidence they spent any time together. Not one photo, not one clip, not one mention. Kind of hard to stop. Means something personal shut the door. Something happened. I don't know what happened. I don't know what, like somebody slept with someone's wife. Like that's the energy I get. You're laughing. They hate each other. And I didn't know how much they hate each other until I got the chance to sit down and be that close. Bro, you can see the energy. And I don't know how they can fix that, but they hate each other. I'll pause.
So it's obviously wild that all of that has happened. But I think that the one thing I'm curious about, though, this is obviously, like you said, you made it very clear, this is bigger than football. But the one thing that I am also kind of curious about, though, football has to also be a part of it. Like I'm sure that I got added onto it at some point. Obviously, AJ is not having the same caliber year that we're used to seeing AJ have and things like that. I almost wonder if, because you've been critical of your offensive coordinator since Kellen Moore's departure.
Crazy. I didn't like.
So I almost want.
I didn't. Just to be clear.
I feel like I thought you did for a little bit of time. I
Never
thought
liked
you were a
Kellen
fan
Moore.
of Kellen
Don't like
Moore.
him at all.
Interesting. But Eagles offense had a lot of success with Kellen Moore.
Yes.
We could say that, right?
Correct. Yes.
So I almost wonder if you have a different offensive coordinator, you figure that out. There is more chemistry on the field. Again, this is bigger than football itself, but would football be able to try to help mend that disconnect between these two? I think the answer would be no. I think they are too far gone at this point. It feels like they are at a irreparable point in their relationship. But I'm curious to know, though, if you start having success on the field and AJ's got, 120 yards a game and getting touchdowns and things like that, will that slowly work its way to bring them back together? And I think the way the Eagles offense is looking right now, it feels like your OC is probably going to be in a one and done situation because the Eagles do not mess around, especially with all the time that you have there on the team. If the offense is underperforming, they will not hesitate to make a change. So I do wonder if they say, hey, AJ, we're going to give you one more year. If we don't like what we see, we might even trade you mid-season. Or do they just say, as soon as the season's over, hey, AJ, we hated how you handled everything here. We know you and Jalen don't get along. We're going to get you and ship you off to the best suitor, moving forward here.
He's done, bro. I promise you he's done. I promise you he will not be back next year.
Not one snap as an Eagle next season.
No shot. He's gone. I think the OC's gone too. The part that frustrates me so much is it's really tough to get a collection of players this good together. The Eagles are 8-2, and their offense stinks.
Yes, that's the fact.
Stinks.
Saquon looks like a shell of himself.
And that's because, number one, the offensive line is shot.
Yeah.
Cam Jurgens is out. Lane Johnson's out. Tyler Steen's been a turnstile at right guard. But the more important part is they've become very predictable in play calling. This looks a lot more like Brian Johnson. And it sucks because it's very easy for NFL defensive coordinators to make adjustments against offenses. Like Chad Ochocinco said, I know every route that AJ's running before he runs it based on the set and I don't study film anymore, but I could tell you what he's running. And if he doesn't watch film and knows every route that he's running, then I think that the defense obviously knows those, right?
Yeah.
The Eagles offense is awful. And I think that the problem is very, very simple. It's a chemistry thing mixed with the poor coordinator thing. And if I was Howie Roseman, I would have never allowed them to promote from within. We've seen the problem that happened before. Sirianni almost got fired from promoting from within. You're running that same problem again. They fired Doug Peterson because of this. Hey, we need to bring an outside coordinator in. Nope, we're not getting rid of my guys. Cool, you're fired. A year after they won the Super Bowl. No, in a year, but you get my point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just look at it like this. I mean, you look at, I know you said Dable would be your first call as the OC if you could make that call. So I look at it like if you can bring in Brian Dable, and again, I'm not saying that that's going to fix the AJ and Jalen beef, but as much as they don't like each other right now, and as much of a distraction as it is, they found a way to they find ways to go out there and play football together and still win football games.
The big difference between here and 23 is they have a defensive coordinator and their defense is 100% on the same page.
Right.
Jalen Phillips has been incredible at this.
Yeah, yes. Nakobe Dean played his ass off this past week too.
My guy. That is my guy. I love Nakobe. You know how much I love Nakobe Dean.
Yeah.
I get perked up, ears perk up as soon as Nakobe Dean is mentioned. Man, that's the first player I did like a full film study on coming out of college. Do you remember the breakdown we created?
I think
Jalen doesn't want that fight. By the way, I want to bring this up because this is relevant. Do you know who Derek Gunn is?
No.
D-Gun? He's on the Mount Rushmore of Eagles reporters
Okay.
of all time. Like, he's been covering the Eagles for 30 years.
Oh, I think I actually saw something from him.
He said that
he talked about Jalen.
The players are frustrated with Jalen and the way he's throwing the football and how he doesn't throw the ball over the middle or doesn't throw the ball in the tight windows. I think there's an internal divide on the offense. They say he practices they don't run the plays like they practice them. So, like, he won't, like, in practice, he'll throw the ball where he needs to, but, in the game, he won't. They called it a Carson Wentz 2.0 situation.
I did, yes. So I saw that. And with that said, I almost wonder, obviously, AJ's been the problem. Obviously, he makes less money than Jalen Hurts. And obviously, Jalen Hurts would be a hard piece to move on from. Damn near impossible, I might add. You saw how much and how willing Philly was to move on from Carson Wentz and take on the absurdity of dead money. Do you think there's any shot that Howie and, Jeffrey Lurie and all those guys are going to be in an office and they're going to choose between Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown? Like, do you think that's even a discussion, or do you think it's AJ no matter what because of the money tied into Jalen?
It's AJ no matter what because Jalen doesn't speak to the media like that. It's AJ no matter what because Smitty, although being upset, can be upset and reserved privately. AJ is, listen, let me make something very clear. AJ has a long history of mental health issues, and I don't want to label him as just a crazy person. I want to understand that his opinions and thoughts are valid, but as a professional, you can't do certain shit.
For sure.
Throwing your teammates under the bus or stuff that just shit you can't do.
For sure.
Label that right under shit you can't do. And
absolutely.
He does a lot to the point that the owner of the team had to come to him and say, "Hey, can you do me a favor and stop fucking talking to the media? I'd really appreciate it."
No, I mean, I get that 100%. I guess I just look at it more so from the sense of if this is truly a Carson Wentz 2.0 situation, if this is truly the offense can't figure it out and it's truly Jalen Hurts is the biggest issue of the offense, I just wonder if, long term they say, hey, AJ is obviously a problem. We want to get this guy out of our building in general. However, if they say, hey, teams need quarterbacks, we're willing to take on the dead money. We think we can go this route, a certain way. And I'm not necessarily just throwing the guy out there, but like I look at all the quarterbacks that may potentially be available, like Kyler Murray, obviously not an upgrade from Jalen Hurts, but just a quarterback that's out there that similar style who you may have some upside with, younger quarterback, whatever. Just other places that ultimately need quarterbacks as well. Situation in Atlanta, Michael Penix just got hurt and he is going to have another ACL surgery. Kirk Cousins is on the mend for $180 million. He can't be your guy moving forward. You've already shown that you don't have any faith in him. Maybe they are willing to offer up a couple first rounders for Jalen Hurts, and they're interested in doing something like that. I'm just saying I'm curious to see if they at least call to hear what teams would potentially pay for Jalen Hurts.
I mean, maybe I'll say this and put this on record. I want this out there. I don't think the Philadelphia Eagles would have won the Super Bowl with Tanner McKee last year. I do think the Philadelphia Eagles would be a better offensive team starting Tanner McKee right now. They won't do that. That's not going to happen. But I think the offense would look better with another quarterback right now.
I mean, I think that's fair based on how the offense has looked. So,
all right, let's move forward. Just look, there's a couple of games this week that are really worth the conversation. I think the main one that I look at when I see this week is Tampa Bay at LA, Sunday Night Football. I think it's going to be a fun football game to watch. I'm very interested. There's obviously Indy KC at 1, but I think the main game to look at this week is the Bucs at the Rams. The Rams coming off a game in which Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions. And at the end of the game, the Seahawks still had an opportunity to kick a game-winning field goal.
Yep.
The Seahawks are so legit. I came away from that game feeling more confident that the Seahawks are better than the Rams. Am I crazy to think that?
No, I mean, I think if you look at it and you say, hey, well, if Darnold only throws 2 instead of 4 and they, score at some point earlier in the game, like maybe we're looking at this completely differently. So I can understand where you're coming from there with that. The one thing, though, with that Rams team, though, that I just can't seem to understand is and Seattle's defense is very good. So, like, I don't want to take anything away from them, but it seemed like the Rams were going to roll early. Like, they had the 2 quick scores, they had 14, and then seemed like the Seahawks defense just buckled down and, they were able to keep that Rams offense really at bay. I don't know. That Seahawks team is very good. The one thing with them, though, is I think they're in a spot, though, where they're having all this success. You talk about coordinators getting plucked and things like that. I think they're going to be in a spot where Clint Kubiak is potentially looking at real head coaching jobs, after this season. So they might need to strike while the iron is hot here and, truly contend for a Super Bowl here. But these are definitely 2 of, the top contenders in the NFC, not just because of their record, but because of what we saw, not only in that game, but what we've seen so far throughout this season.
I think Seattle is completely a sustainable spot. I think Mike McDonald's built that defense up to be, dare I say, better than the Legion of Boom was.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
I'm talking about in the future. The next 3-4 years, I think that Seattle defense that's starting right now will be better than the Legion of Boom defense.
I think that's a strong statement. Not saying it's impossible. They got a lot of talent. I mean, you got Reek Woolen, you got Witherspoon, you got Ryan and Eamon Wari. I love Nicky
Leonard Williams. Like he's been.
I was just talking about secondary.
Yeah, I don't mean so. When I say Legion of Boom, I mean the entire defense. I'm not talking about just the secondary. The secondary is good. Eamon Wari has been incredible. By the way, shout out to you. Your reporting on Eamon Wari has been perfect. Devon Witherspoon's been great. Kobe Bryant, the guy that I loved coming out of Cincinnati, has been great in his transition to safety. Reek Woolen has been much better as a outside corner with safety help, but they're up front. They're Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams are absolutely abusing people.
That they are, and it's crazy to see this resurgence from not even resurgence, but it feels like second life of Sam Darnold. Like, who would have thought that him leaving? I thought him leaving the Vikings was going to end up being a mistake on his part because he was no longer with Kevin O'Connell. But for him to go to Seattle and, still find ways to be successful without your head coach is a defensive minded guy. So, it's truly surprising to see Sam Darnold have this kind of year at this point in his career, like knowing what we've seen in the past from him.
Jaron Reed's been incredible too. You're right. Jordan, great mention. You ready to move the pick'em?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Do you have Bills picks? You said gave them to you.
I do have Bills picks.
So I'm not upset. 2-1 is not upsetting. But 28-8 looks really good. So I'd like to go 3-0 this week and get on that 28-8 streak. I feel like, I know I got 3 more games picked than you, but you're getting a little close in the loss column.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I'm not kidding with you. I blame the Jaguars-Texans game as a game I never should have lost.
That's a very fair point.
But let's go.
All right, so
Bills out first. Do you want to do yours?
Yeah, no, I'll give Bills here quick,
Okay.
Because I'm going head to head against Bill in one of our picks. So, first game, Chicago at home -2.5 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Second game, he's got Philly -3.5 at Dallas. And then the last game, he's got San Francisco -7 at home versus the Carolina Panthers.
I know I'm sacrilegious for saying this. Philadelphia loses this Sunday. I am almost sure of it. I can't pick it because people in Philadelphia would disown me. 100% Dallas wins this Sunday.
And it's hilarious that you say that because I'll start off with my first pick, and my first pick is the Cowboys +3.5 at home versus the Eagles. It's one of those games where I look at it and I'm like, I get it. The Eagles are 8-2. Like, you look at the records, you look at where Dallas is, and you look at where their defense had holes, earlier on in the season. Well, they addressed those holes at the trade deadline. Quinnen Williams made immediate impact, and I know it was just only against the Raiders, but you can see the impact there. Logan Wilson had a solid debut with the Cowboys as well there, and I think that Cowboys offense will be able to have some success. So if this gets in a situation where it's up in the 20s or high 20s, and you need that Eagles offense to score, I just don't know if I have the confidence in them to do so. Not saying that they can't. Not even saying the Cowboys defense is that good, but I just think they may have some struggles there. So I like the Cowboys +3.5 at home. I also give me the Cleveland Browns +3.5 on the road at the Las Vegas Raiders. I think with a full week to prepare, Shedeur Sanders and company are going to look a lot better. And I think that Raiders team absolutely stinks. We said earlier the Browns defense doesn't travel. I think they will travel versus Geno Smith. I think if you can find a way to put up 20 points in that game, you're going to cover that 3.5 point spread. I think the Raiders are that bad. So I like the Browns in that spot there. And then the last game I have, one that you slightly mentioned as a potential good game of the week. I like the over 49.5 Colts at Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to have to put up points in that football game. The Colts have had a lot of success on offense. I think that's going to be a shootout as long as the weather is not too crazy in Kansas City, which it very well could be. Something I will monitor. So if I do see, crazy inclement weather, maybe changing that pick. But if it's at least just clear skies, I like the over 49.5 number in that game.
Well, thought you were going to say the other game. I like the over in the other game. I didn't pick it. I also love the Cowboys this week. I hate saying that. Like don't clip that exact line. But I have 3 picks for you, and I feel very confident about all 3 of them. I will also go take the worst odds if you want me to, because I know that they've changed since I've made the pick. I think they've changed a 0.5 point, but that's okay. My best bet this week is very similar to my best bet last week. I am almost sure of this one. Love the Chiefs -3.5 at home over Indy. They need it more. They're 5-5. I also think that Spagnuolo's defense will do a great job of limiting Daniel Jones, who's a slow processor of information. Chiefs -3.5 is my best bet this week. It's not close. I think this game's an easy game to pick. Second one, I don't know how this game's not 23.5 spread. I like the Seahawks -12.5 at Tennessee. The Seahawks beat the shit out of teams. And when their defense, once again, it travels. Tennessee's offensive line isn't good. They're playing with a rookie quarterback. Their secondary in Seattle is great. I don't know how Tennessee scores in this game. I think Seattle beats them by 50. I would take this game -23.5. I got it -12.5. That's what I'll take it at. Third game on the agenda. There's not a more confusing football team than the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last week, they beat the shit out of the Chargers. This week, they go into Arizona and get beat. I like the Cardinals +3. Jacoby Brissett throwing the ball 75, 80 times in a game. I don't care. Give me the Cardinals +3 at home versus the Jaguars. Those are my 3 picks this week.
Nice. Which game did you thought I was going to take? You thought I was going to take the over in?
I thought you were going to take the over in the Bucks Rams, which I like the over in that one.
See, I do, but I need to know more. It appears, I'd imagine that Bucky Irvin's going to play this week. He pretty much practiced all week last week and then, didn't play in the game. Same thing with Chris Godwin. So I imagine they both play, but if they don't, I I'd have my reservations about it, but I can definitely see that being the case.
Let's move over to college football, and I'll pass the rock to Mr. College Control.
All right, so not too many crazy games. I mean, a couple that we will go over here, but I just want to talk about some of the things that happened last week. You had Oklahoma beating one loss Alabama. So now Alabama is a team that has 2 losses. You had Georgia put a pretty good beating on a Texas team at home. You also had Notre Dame taking care of business on the road against Pitt. And then you had a comeback, an unprecedented comeback down in College Station. Texas A&M came back from 27 points, post halftime there, and they ultimately went out and won the football game. So I think the results of these games, had the ability to really shake up the standings as far as, the CFP rankings and things like that go. So wanted to just get, initial reaction to all of the action that happened last week. And then, of course, we can go ahead and talk a little bit about the games we're going to see this upcoming week.
It was almost instant. I texted the group and I said, what the hell is happening in College Station? And you're like, I'm getting a zillion Superdog points. And then touchdown. I'm like, what the hell just happened? Texas A&M was down 30-3 at the half. A different team came out of the tunnel. I don't know. Like, this is why South Carolina is 3-7.
Yep. Quite literally.
That is insane. If I bet you South Carolina could have came out, kneeled the ball all 3 times, and not had the result be as bad as it was in the second half of that football game. I don't know how that happened.
It was absolutely insane for that to go that way. And honestly, I blame a lot of it on Beamer. Coaching was a major part of that because South Carolina got very timid and relaxed. Like you could tell they were being very conservative by being up that much on an A&M team. And when you have, your foot on the throat of your opponent, you got to step on it. You can't let it up to give them a little bit of oxygen and let them breathe a little bit there. So I think South Carolina dropped the ball, and I give a ton of credit to that A&M team because a lot of teams in that situation would roll over. A&M was undefeated going into that football game. Their spot in the college football playoff is already all but secured at this point, really. So that one loss wasn't going to kill them. So they could have said, hey, today wasn't our day. We're going to, rebound from it. We still got the SEC championship really in front of us at this point. So, we're just going to work on it moving forward here. But they didn't do that. They said, hey, let's see what we got and give them our best shot in the second half and see where we can go from there. And they went out and not only did that, but they went out and won the football game. So definitely wanted to give them a ton of credit there. You think Texas is done? They're 3 losses now.
Texas is done. That was brutal. And I gotta give Kirby Smart all the credit in the world. That onside kick after they scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
Texas came back in that football game, right? They're 14-10. They got a 4th down. They're off the field. And then they have a penalty. Georgia continues. They score a touchdown. They go up 21-10. Kick an onside kick. They're up 28-10 before Texas touched the field again. They left the field offensively down 14-10. The defense stops them. It's 4th down. Oh, man. What happened?
It's wild. So they got
Alabama. I want to talk about Alabama for 1 second. Alabama will figure out a way to be the first 3-loss team making the college football playoff. They'll lose are they going to be in the SEC championship game?
They are going to be. Well, as it stands right now, if they win their next 2, they are still
going to be Eastern Illinois and Auburn. Let's knock that off.
Yeah.
They'll lose in the SEC championship game, and they'll find a way to be the first 3-loss team in the college football playoff.
That will be interesting.
Was bad in that game.
He was, and I think the other part of it was that Oklahoma's defense actually showed up. Not that they just showed up, but they were getting after Bama, like to the point where I was not expecting that. I thought that was going to be a game where essentially this was big bro versus little bro. Alabama has the better athletes. Oklahoma had a really good season, but I thought this was going to be the game where
they outgained about 200 yards.
was
The
better. That wasn't
turnovers
the case.
killed them. Alabama killed them turnover-wise.
Yeah,
Ty
absolutely.
Simpson's pick, Ty
There's some
Simpson's
bad
fumble, Ryan Williams' fumble. That was it. That was the determining factor in the football game.
Definitely was. I mean, we will see Bama. They definitely control their own fate here moving forward. But that's funny that you say that about them having the 3 losses there, because I think there's some teams that are right there behind them that would have interesting cases. I mean, I think, Miami at 13. I'm not saying I'm beating the table for Miami to get in over Bama, but they have a win over a team that's probably going to make the playoff in Notre Dame. And I know Bama has some good wins on their resume, but only having 2 losses, Miami's not going to go to the ACC championship. So very curious to see how that all will play out there. But with that said, we still do have some big matchups this week. This is always the week of the appetizer, because next week is rivalry week. So you get all the great matchups next week, but pretty much everywhere outside of the SEC, you have good matchups, going on this week. So, or sneaky good, I should say.
Yeah, well, Mizzou versus Oklahoma. Mizzou lost their quarterback, but Oklahoma is coming off it's an emotional letdown here. It's just what it is. It happens all the time.
For sure, but I think Oklahoma is new to the SEC. They may not realize that, typically this is when you schedule your cupcake. This is when you schedule your Mercers, your East Texas A&M of the world.
Georgia's like playing Charlotte this week.
Exactly.
Thanks, Georgia. Appreciate it.
Exactly. So Oklahoma will have to learn, moving forward here. Actually, they won't learn, because SEC is moving to a nine-game conference schedule. So this will be the last year that you see this ultimately happen here. But that's, of course, one game is ranked v. ranked. I don't think we really need to talk about that, though, because without Mizzou having their quarterback, I don't see that truly being a game where you threaten Oklahoma actually losing it. But you do have a matchup that is ever important in the USC Trojans traveling to Austin, take on the Oregon Ducks. And I say this game is important because USC is right on the brink of getting in as an at-large team. They already have 2 losses. Oregon already has 1 loss on their resume. If USC finds a way to win this football game, not only does this add to their resume, I think we'd be looking at a situation where Oregon potentially doesn't make the CFP at all, because they would be stuck behind a USC team that they lost a head-to-head matchup to. So I think this game is really a pseudo playoff game for both of these teams here. How do you see that game breaking down?
So I'm picking it. I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Ducks ultimately win the football game, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than people want it to be. USC's been playing very good football, and surprisingly, their defense has been better than I expected. They're always a terrible defensive team, especially under Lincoln Riley, but they've been better recently. They look good versus Iowa. I thought their defense looked good. Granted, Iowa doesn't have the greatest offense in the world, but they look good versus Dylan Raiola in Nebraska. Mm-hmm. I think that as a whole, they've looked better this year than they normally do. And I think that they'll give them a run for their money. Jaden's played well at quarterback. USC's always got good quarterbacks, but Makai Lemon is unstoppable.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to continue being one of the best receivers in the country. So I think this will be a good football game.
I agree. And I think that Oregon has shown me the last few weeks here that I truly thought Oregon was a team that could win that championship. And granted, they probably are still a team that can do that, but I don't see a team that is truly I don't see a scary football team. Yeah. Last year when I saw that Oregon team, they felt like a, well-oiled machine at all times. Like even playing Penn State in the Big Ten championship game, we know how good that defense was, and they just essentially ran through it every which way they wanted to. We saw how the first game against Ohio State looked when they were able to score, 30-plus points in that one. This year, I don't get that same kind of feel for them, and as much as I like Dante Moore, I truly think that this is a USC team that will not be afraid to give Oregon their absolute best shot here. So I actually fully agree with your breakdown of it. I think this will be a very close, high-scoring football game, but I think in the end, it being at home, I trust Oregon more to make that one play at the end to ultimately find a way to win it.
It's the only game that you're beating your chest because you want to watch it. Like, it's the only game this Saturday that I'm like, I have to watch that game.
For sure.
So we'll see.
For sure. And like I said, I think this is a playoff game for both of these teams because I do think, especially with your point about Alabama, they're sitting at 10 right now, and, they will be playing in the SEC championship game as long as they handle business the rest of the way there. They lose that football game. Do you essentially punish them for playing in a conference championship game? Because, hypothetically, I was going to say in comparison, though, hypothetically, if Oregon loses this football game here and they are a 2-loss team, you're looking at Oregon, who won't be playing in their conference championship game, and Alabama, who is a 3-loss team, who is playing in their conference championship game. Like, where does that come into play? So I think that'll be interesting in the dilemma that we haven't had yet in this format of the college football playoff.
I think it's going to happen. So I said it to you today. I'll say it to you in a couple weeks. Alabama will be the first 3-loss team that makes the college football playoff.
Will they be the only 3-loss team that makes it in?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. You know they said Caitlin Clark gets a special whistle. Alabama gets a special whistle.
Okay.
They do. They're Alabama.
All right. Well, I mean, they didn't make it
a bad thing either. I just think that
I don't either.
Truth.
They didn't. I will say they didn't make it in last year when there was that BS argument that they could have snuck in and got the spot away from SMU. So I don't think after that happening, I don't think they would snub Bama 2 times. So I'm with you. I definitely think they would potentially get a special whistle. I mean, no, it's not. But I mean, I think a lot of people thought Bama deserved to be in, or they wanted to be in over SMU, or in this, this upcoming year. I say snub because they didn't make it in. I don't think they're going to not make the playoffs 2 years in a row, especially if their 3rd loss is losing the SEC championship game.
All righty. Let's get into Pick'em. I want to talk UFC anyway.
All right. So, Pick'em, you are killing it with the record. Another super dog, though, that is still giving me points. And as much as South Carolina let me down with the points they let get away, we still picked up 17 points last week. I won't complain too much.
Not bad. Do you want me to lead off, or you want to lead off?
I was going to give Bill's picks, and then if you want to go ahead. So Bill he's got Texas minus 8.5 at home versus Arkansas. He's got Oklahoma minus 7 at home versus Missouri. And he's got James Madison minus 13.5 at home versus Washington State. And for his super dog, he is rolling with Rutgers plus 31.5 at Ohio State.
I'm doing something similar with my super dog. Not the same thing, but I'll start with this. I got Kentucky plus 9.5 over Vanderbilt. I think Kentucky will keep this game close. I think Vanderbilt's kind of sliding. I'll take Kentucky plus the 9.5. Second game on the docket, I already talked about this one. Give me USC plus 9.5 over Oregon. I think this game is a 1-possession game. I think there's an opportunity for USC to win it. I think ultimately Oregon wins the game close, but I don't think it's 2 possessions. And then for my third one, this is a fun pick. I like Cincinnati plus 2.5 over BYU. Brendan Sorsby goes nuts. Cincinnati's a good home team. They're not a good road team. They're a good home team. BYU is traveling across the country. Going to have to play at Cincinnati. I like Cincinnati in that football game to win the game outright. And then for my super dog, give me Syracuse plus 35.5 at Notre Dame. Look, I don't think Notre Dame can beat anyone by 35.5. Syracuse is still a good Division I school. They're just missing a couple off key offensive players. I think they'll keep it close enough to pick me up a couple super dog points.
Okay. I like it. I share a couple picks with Bill here. I was actually kind of surprised to see that once he sent them over here. And I'm also going to one of the games that you're picking, Gene. So Interesting little mix up for us this week. But for me, first game, I will take the over 59.5 in the USC at Oregon game. Like I said before, I think this is going to truly be a shootout, and 59.5 is a high number there. But I think these teams are going to go back and forth, go blow for blow in that game. And I think even with it being at 59.5, I think you're going to see fireworks in that one. Second game, I also like Texas -8.5 at home versus Arkansas. I think Texas is a team right now where style points are going to matter. You have 3 losses. You need to find a way to make it on the committee's mind that, hey, we are still a good football team, and don't forget about us when making your rankings for the college football playoff. And then my last game, I like Maryland +13.5 at home versus Michigan. Look, we see this happen every single year. Whoever Ohio State and Michigan are facing before the game, it's almost like they're just looking ahead. They squeeze on by the game, and they find ways to win the football games, but they make sure those games are unnecessarily tight. And so I think it's going to be more of that. You get Maryland at home. This essentially is going to be their Super Bowl, quote unquote. I think they're going to be able to give Michigan their absolute best shot here, especially with all the pieces that Michigan will be missing in that game. And then for my super dog, based on that same token, it feels sacrilegious, but I'm taking Rutgers +31.5 on the road against Ohio State. Look, I have no doubt about it that Ohio State's going to win the football game, but I think they are going to mess around and flirt with the idea of, are they on upset alert? Is Rutgers going to take care of business in this one? And I ultimately think at the end of the day, that game next week, losing 4 times in a row to Michigan, I think in the second half, you may see them only up 14, 17 points, and they rest everybody. They're like, hey, we only want you to have 30 minutes of football. After that, we want you to go out. We want you to, be on the bike. We want you to be all squared away for next week. So I think Rutgers does enough to cover that 31.5 point game.
It's funny. I find the hatred that comes out of you and Bill a lot when the week before the game. I just see it. You think Ole Miss can win it all if they win the Egg Bowl? No.
I mean, I don't know that winning the Egg Bowl really won't mean much to me. I think if you're a fan of Ole Miss, you're more so worried about who is coaching Ole Miss at that time, because apparently the Egg Bowl is the hard deadline that Ole Miss gave Lane Kiffin to decide if he is going to Florida or LSU or if he's staying at Ole Miss. So I think who's coaching that game will give you a better answer. I still don't think, even if Lane's the guy, that they can win it all, but if Lane is the one that's coaching in that Egg Bowl, I think you should be optimistic as an Ole Miss fan.
We'll see. Let's get in the UFC card.
Did you get a chance to watch the full thing?
No, of course I watched the whole thing.
I was just asking. I know we had talked about it being the best card, moving forward there, but I didn't know if call it late or whatever it might be.
Watched it live. Watched it at Adrian's house. The first 3 fights were incredible.
Even the Bo Nickel one on the
yeah, the undercard was good too. There's a lot of good fights. I got to be honest with you, man. Listen, you were right. I was wrong. I'm stupid. You're not. Whatever. It was crazy to watch how much the weight difference meant in that fight. I've never seen Zhang Weili just physically dominated the way she was in that fight. And it just felt like it was just too much. Like that difference in size meant a lot. And she got laid on the entire fight. Very boring fight. The 2 main event fights were extremely boring fights. The 3 early fights were, 16-second knockout for Benoit St. Denis. Pratis looks incredible. Yep. I knew he knocked out Leon Edwards cold. And then Michael Morales is another. He's just an up-and-coming superstar. He's different. I think he's going to be – I've watched him knock out multiple people now. He might be one of my favorite fighters. I think he might be the next welterweight champion. But I watched him knock out Gilbert Burns. I didn't think Gilbert Burns would get knocked out. And then now Sean Brady, who's a guy I obviously am pulling for, Philadelphia guy, but he looks different, man. He looks like just a different next gen fighter.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, the first three were incredible fights to see. And I think the Morales one is interesting because 170, as quiet as it's kept, you got some people that are going to be in the mix. Like, obviously, he's going to be there. Shavkat Rakhmonov, like, we've not really heard from him in a while, but he was absolutely dominant while he was fighting. He's just been on this hiatus because he can't get healthy at the right time. So, I mean, that's going to be another guy that's got to be, talk about that division. Kamaru Usman, regardless of how you feel about him and his past, you may say he's over the hill, but he's found a little resurgence there. So, like, there's going to be names. And then, of course, Bilal Muhammad, who was the champ, not too long ago, is still in that division. So there's a lot of action in that 170 division. And, Islam obviously just won the belt, but he's going to have some suitors coming after him very fast.
Got somebody in the chat that just
I can give you a OH if you want to OH.
He's asking. But
can you give me an IO? I'll give you the OH.
I'm not giving either one of you guys anything. So I know you're talking. Let me ask you a question. Who in the 170 division do you think causes the most issues for Islam?
Shavkat, because he is the best wrestler, grappler, in my opinion. Like, I think obviously Morales is incredible. I don't know if I see Islam getting knocked out, and that feels like that would be the method of victory in that fight, if it went that route. But especially I think if Islam is getting, teed off on the feet, I do think he'd just go for takedowns and just lay and, kind of go from there. So I think Shavkat's going to be the guy.
I think it's Michael Morales. I think he's so wiry and so, like, I think it'll be tough to get his hands on. And I think he can knock you out from different levels. Spinning back fist. I think he can catch Islam coming for that takedown and just knock him out cold.
Can I make a proclamation?
No, I'm kidding. Good.
I officially have Islam as the 6th best fighter to ever step in the octagon.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You have him ahead of Khabib already?
I do.
You're such an asshole.
I'm just saying.
You're such an asshole.
I'm just saying, man. He is that this fight obviously got him the belt, the second belt, at a different division, but he just tied Anderson Silva's win streak for the longest win streak of all time in the UFC at 16. And he's looked absolutely incredible while doing it. And it's just funny to me because this feels so full circle, because I remember earlier on, like maybe 2021, right? Like, it was within our first year of doing the show. I had been as high on Islam as anyone could be. And I said, at some point, I thought he had the potential to pass Khabib. And I said, he's the better striker. And they obviously do the same thing as far as the wrestling goes with the Sambo. And I think we've gotten to that point where those conversations can be had. He's not much for
if those two in their prime fought each other, Islam would win the fight.
I do.
You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind.
Why?
What do you mean why?
Why am I think Islam is the better
guy how to fight.
They're in the same camp, so I can't say Khabib taught this guy how to. Absolutely. But I can't say he taught him.
Nobody knows.
But they're in the same. Who's coaching Khabib? I'm saying the same coaches that Khabib had, Islam also has. So, like, yes, Khabib was another guy in that gym.
I think Khabib ran through the division. There was no one else to fight. There was no one to excite him to fight. And goes, I'm gonna walk away. I'm just the best.
Well, if that's how you feel, I mean, we saw what Islam
30-0 is just two different things.
You're right, but we saw what Islam. He cleaned out the 155 division, and he's like, there's nothing else left for me. You know what? I'll go up to 170 and beat that guy.
But I think Islam's up there though, bro. I do. I was fine with you making that proclamation, but the funny part of it was I was going to ask if you had him above Habib, which I don't.
Yeah, so I
top
do.
5. If you
my
haven't
top my top 5 are all time: John, Anderson, GSP, Mighty Mouse, Jose Aldo is my number 5.
What? You have Amanda nowhere near there?
Well, I mean, Amanda, of course,
Jose
deserves
Aldo is in your
to
top
be
5?
there. Amanda, of course, deserves to be there. All right, so move everybody back down. I'll go Aldo behind Nunes.
So you go Nunes 5, Aldo 6, Islam 7.
Yep.
Aldo's not my top 10.
I think I'll say this, if Jose Aldo stopped fighting after the McGregor fight, I think we're having a different view of who he is.
I also think that Anderson Silva fought too long. When you see the breakdown of what those fighters are, you kind of look at them differently.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm like, I can't forget their
peak. I get it. But yeah, I mean, Anderson's peak was incredible. John is obviously the most dominant. GSP is the most technical. Amanda is the best woman.
Yeah.
Habib is the flawless victory.
Yeah. And I don't
think he lost a round. He lost one round.
And you know, Khabib is the one that he definitely deserves to be up there. For me, you know what it is. I just feel like that he didn't fight enough for me to have him is in high regard. Like, for example, like this is the one thing, and I'm not, going to shit on Khabib or anything like that. But if for you, will Michael Jordan be your GOAT if after 92 he said, you know what, I'm done for good, and he never came back?
Yeah, no, he wouldn't be.
So, like, I think that's where I am with Khabib. Like, you were that guy.
First 3 years and won all 3 championships. Habib never lost. I mean, lose a round. It's flawless victory.
You're right. You're right. I get it. But I'm just saying, like, how we hold that regard for Mike because of how he was in the championships, like 6-0. We always hear it. I would be curious of like the outlook of that. Like, I don't think it would be crazy to have guys who probably maybe on the technical side, like, aren't quite as good or quite as dominant, but they've just racked up the wins over the time. Like, I think if you put Jose Aldo in the cage with Khabib, prime versus prime, I think Khabib gets the job done. Like, I'm not saying that, but
so peak versus peak. Just the truth, right? The number 1 fighter in the world is Khabib. Peak versus peak. Yeah, I think he lost 1 round. But what you're saying is an all-time generational, like when we say peak versus peak, I could say peak versus peak. Calvin Johnson's a better receiver than Jerry Rice. He just did it shorter.
Correct.
I don't mean he's the greatest of all time, but you can't argue the most peak fighter ever is Habib.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure we're on the same.
I mean, I think you can have the argument because John was absolutely incredible, but I mean, Khabib it's Khabib, Anderson, and John. Like, that's it. Those are your only 3 as far as peak versus peak. Those are the only 3 you can talk about as far as peak.
I'll be all right with that. That's not you're not crazy to say that.
But
as far as females go,
I was just about to say the women's side of things.
Boring. I was very bored with that fight, and
I understand.
Valentina is incredible at what she does, but she's a definition of a counter striker. She's a definition of stay there, stand her guard, and wait until you make a mistake. And Weili, her corner told her, like, stop trying to, like, don't let her take you down.
Yeah. Stop attacking because she's going to take you down.
And then at that point, she was so concerned. You look in the 3rd round, she was so concerned with the takedown that she started getting pieced up on her feet, which I thought was incredible. It looked a very GSP like performance for Valentina. Give all credit where credit's due. I don't know what's next for her, but
at this point,
she's obviously not as good as the Lioness, but
she's running out of people to fight now. Because Amanda said she's going to come back, but she's going to fight Kayla Harrison.
Yeah.
You've already seen Valentina fight Amanda a couple times now. So, like, even if that fight ultimately gets signed, and let's say Valentina, just for shits and giggles, wins that fight, it's not going to hold the value that it would have, a few years ago if they would have fought. So, I think Valentina at this point is doing it for the love of the game. She's got nothing left to prove. And
is she the second GOAT female wrestler?
Absolutely. I mean,
absolutely.
There's no doubt about it. She is the second greatest female in UFC history. There's no doubt about it.
Okay.
And I think obviously because they fought, you can't say it. And I will be on my high horse. I will fight to the death that she won the second fight against Amanda. But she's got two losses to Amanda, so you can't even make the argument that she's over Amanda. But I think there wouldn't be anyone else that I would have above Valentina outside of Amanda.
There's two arguments that you can make.
I think you got one, but okay. I'm curious.
Ronda's one.
Of course.
Peak versus Peak. And the other one's Chris Cyborg. And Cyborg dominated for years on top of years on top of years. And then she got in the ring with the wrong person. She got in the ring and tried throwing punches with the Lioness, the GOAT, and she got knocked the hell out.
But Cyborg wasn't in the UFC long enough to
greatest fighters, women fighters.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
Fighters.
I know. I get it. But I'm just saying, if I'm going
ignoring what people do outside the UFC.
Like I said, I 100% understand that, but at a point, I think we've noticed, especially with people coming in and maybe they're past their prime, maybe they're not, whatever the case may be. Once you get over to the UFC, I think you truly see the best fighters in the world. And a lot of the time when you have those fighters coming over from different promotions and things like that, they aren't as unbeatable as they were beforehand. So curious to see with Kayla Harrison. Kayla obviously came over and she's transitioned nicely. Curious to see what that looks like against Amanda. But yeah, I
bring up is Fedor Emelianenko is one of the greatest heavyweights ever. But like when he came over, he was, I don't know, it's like 100 years old. And then you get knocked out and you're like, oh, he's not great because he got knocked out when he was 50. Like,
yeah. I don't know. I just, and Bullet's my favorite. Probably, I mean, Bullet and Islam are my two favorite fighters. So
it's fair. I can't argue with you. Want to talk a little NBA before we wrap up?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
NBA has been fun. I do want to bring something up. The 76ers are the absolute worst third quarter team in the history of the NBA. It is insane how bad they are in the third quarter. Today, they got beat 44-26 in the third quarter. Now they're trying to come back in the fourth, which is, it's interesting I keep up with the game on the side while we're talking, but I'm serious. I'm gonna look it up for you. I'm gonna give you the exact numbers. Third quarter plus minus. It's so bad this season. So the 76ers have had a significant third quarter struggles recently, ranking poorly in net rating, negative 36.3, struggling with offensive and defensive ratings. Their plus minus this year in the third quarter is they're averaging losing the quarter by 9 points.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, it's insane.
You got Paul George back, and it feels like Joel Embiid can be back any day now.
Well, Joel's played. He'll play tomorrow probably. Pandemic P I'm not excited about.
Look, I told you before the season, and it was the biggest if of all time here. I said if you got 70 games combined between Joel Embiid and Paul George, and come April, they were playing, you're going to have a damn good basketball team and have a shot to make some noise there. And the young guys have stepped up early. And, you got to just hope and pray that PG and Embiid don't mess up that rhythm between all the young guys. But I think you guys got something brewing there in Philly. It's just a matter of, can it all come together with this group of guys, or is it going to be kind of stifled until, PG and Embiid are out of that locker room.
15 games into the season. Have you changed your final four?
My final four was Cleveland, Denver, OKC, and New York. No.
I have.
Okay.
Before the season started, I had Oklahoma City, Denver, and I had Detroit, Orlando.
Okay. Orlando's been a dumpster fire. So who are you taking out for them?
I'm not taking the Orlando Magic out. I'm
Oh.
steadfast on Detroit, Orlando. I think when Paolo Banchero comes back, they're going to make a nice run.
Wow. Okay.
Who I'm taking out is the Denver Nuggets.
Whoa. Okay.
I think the Houston Rockets are going to – I think they look really good. And they've looked really good the last 4 or 5 games, and I've really kind of seen it. I've seen the vision, and Ime Udoka is just a great coach. The emergence of Jabari Smith, the next step forward of Alfred Sengun, how good Amen Thompson is. I think that this team in Houston, I genuinely believe this, is the only team that can beat the Thunder. The only team that can beat the Thunder this year. The Thunder are on a different wavelength.
They are.
They're different. They're better than they were last year.
They are. I'm curious, though, to see 7-game series. It's going to look different. Like, I get it. They've been beating up on everybody, but they were beating up on everybody last year. And then they got to that Denver series, and it was, damn, we don't have a way to stop Joker. And last I checked, Joker is still on that Denver roster. They got better players around him. They got a true backup 5 there as well. Like, I think they match up well. And I forgot what's the kid's name Mitchell, I think. The kid that's been playing a ton of minutes. AJ Mitchell. He's been a very nice addition for them. But as a whole, I think my issue is with OKC is that year after year after year, you've seen that teams will ultimately game plan and, construct their roster to beat last year's defending champions. And I thought OKC stayed a little too stagnant for me to go on and repeat as champions. Like, I think Denver made all the right moves to go and say, hey, this is how we are going to stop. This is how we're going to stop OKC. Like, I look at it like this. Boston absolutely dominated, the regular season, and they were absolutely phenomenal. New York went out and said, hey, we got to find guys that match up well with them. And throughout the entire regular season, we saw New York. I mean, they were winning games. Like, they obviously made the playoffs, things like that. But there was never a time before the series actually started where you're like, I think this New York Knicks team can win that series. But we saw how the series played out. And we ultimately saw what happened there. I think that's going to be the case in the Denver OKC series once we get to the playoffs.
And I'll tell you where you're wrong, in my opinion. Obviously, it's an opinion-based response. But I think where you're wrong is you said Oklahoma City didn't stay stagnant. I think as young as they were, they stayed developing. And I think that their players, their own homegrown players, get better. I don't think yet. I thought last year they were a year early for the window. I think their window began this year. And they won last year. I think they're better this year. Every one of those players is just getting better. Chet is better. And all the young guys on that Oklahoma City roster, AJ Mitchell's been great for them. Aaron Wiggins is better this year. Cason Wallace, Dort, they're all getting better. And they haven't even had J-Dub. And they're 14-1, dominating everyone.
They haven't. You think they got a shot to compete for the 73-9, or
maybe their team's so deep? They're so deep. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to have a shot, barring a crazy injury. I think, honestly, I hate to say this because you don't want to wish injury on anybody, but I think, honestly, anybody outside of Shea getting hurt, I'm not going to say they're disposable, but I definitely think OKC will hold their water, and they'll be able to very much stay afloat without any individual not named SGA on that team. for like an extended period of time.
I feel you. Anything else NBA related that you want to kind of get into?
I guess the only other, kind of question I have for you is obviously we're early. We're only like 14, 15, 16 games in. Throughout what you've seen so far, any body sticking out as far as MVP goes, throughout this point in the year, or anybody you're like, I think I can see them progress to go win the award, or
so I picked Jokic before the season started.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the only one that's really stood out that's like taking a huge leap is Luka. I also gave you a dark horse of Cade Cunningham. And if Detroit keeps doing what they're doing and they keep finding ways to win basketball games, I can see Cade being a nice dark horse. I remember when the season started, I said my MVP is Jokic and my dark horse is Cade Cunningham. I can't fall off of that.
Yeah.
Luka's the only one. He looks in better shape. He looks like he took this offseason great. And I got to give JJ credit where credit's due. They look better coached.
They do, and I give Luka credit too. He's looked better defensively as well. Like he's still a cone out there, but he's a cone that can move at least side to side. He might wiggle a little bit, make it harder for you, and he's getting in the passing lanes as well. So definitely give Luka credit there. I'm curious to see what they ultimately will look like now that LeBron is back, and if those numbers kind of start to fall off there, just usage wise, because of course LeBron's going to bring the ball up, at times there as well. And, AR is still bringing the ball up there with Luka too. So curious to see how that whole dynamic will work with all of them on the floor at the same time there. But yeah, Luka's definitely been incredible to start the season.
And it's not just that, like there's a lot of futures awards. Like I think I'm ready to, I don't want to say right the ship. I don't think Cooper Flag wins Rookie of the Year. I just don't. I think he's going to be great. I just think Dallas is a dumpster fire. Yeah. And it might not be VJ Edgecombe. And one guy I've been wrong on so far is Con Knievel. He's been
really good. He's been
really
good.
I think that there's a lot of other players. Ace Bailey's finally picked it up. He's been a lot better in Utah.
Queen and Fear, as we talked about earlier, they've had some bright spots with the Pelicans too.
If I could get Cooper versus the field, I would take the field.
Understandable. And I think with Dallas being in the spot they're in now, obviously you fire Nico. Report came out today that, they want to now look to see how they can build around Cooper Flag for the future. If that means potentially shopping Anthony Davis, like they would be open to doing so. I think that would be very, very interesting, especially with I would say the mindset of, we said last year, if everybody's healthy, you add in Cooper Flag, like this is a team that could potentially compete, for like in the playoffs, to be a dark horse, to potentially even go to the finals. And now they're like, hey, Clay's a shell of himself. He stinks. AD can't stay healthy and really shouldn't have been a part of our future plans at all here. So maybe you recoup assets and try and figure it out from there.
It's interesting to watch. It's very interesting to watch as a whole. Dallas is just they're sad. There's a lot of other teams that are sad in the NBA, and you can see it way too early. And I feel bad for some of these teams because I remember those days as a 76ers fan back in the day. Like you already know the Brooklyn Nets, the Washington Wizards, the Indiana Pacers, who've been by the way awful. The New Orleans Pelicans, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Sacramento Kings are eliminated. It's like the Squid Games. Like they're red light, green light. They just it's gone. Eliminated. But
Russ has been a little bright spot for Sacramento though. On a little starting job there.
Good for him. Good for old Russ.
But yeah, no, that's it for me, NBA. Unless you got something else.
No, sir. Let's move into You Gotta Be Kidding Me then, brother.
All right, so this week for me, I'm going to the college football ranks. I'm going to that game that we talked about in South Carolina at Texas A&M. And for those of you that did not see, Nick Harbor broke free for a long touchdown. And after the touchdown, he ran into the tunnel. He was grabbing his hamstring, and it seemed like it was more so a celebration. But whatever the case may be, as Harbor and his teammates were walking out of the tunnel, a state trooper decided to stick his nose where it didn't belong and directly walk right between Nick Harbor and his teammates. And as he bumps them, he looks back at them and he starts yelling at them as if they were in the wrong. Well, you could see from the video that clearly the players weren't in the wrong, as they were just trying to return back to the sideline there. But A&M even doubled down on that and let you know pretty much right away that that trooper was out of line, because right after the game, he was relieved of his game day duty. So he will no longer be, patrolling the sidelines at the Texas A&M game. Now, look, I get it. I'm sure that guy was a fan of A&M and they were getting their asses handed to him at that point. But there is a way you have to conduct yourself on the field. And this being a time frame where you tried to make it about you and, try to make yourself bigger than, what you really are in that instance was definitely not a good idea. So now you are out of, your game day duties there at College Station. So this week for me, that state trooper that, tried to make it all about him is mine.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I got torn, right? There's a lot of different things I can choose this week. I think there's a lot of just blunders and things that were said in the media that were hilarious and just dumb. But I want to use Tua. I want to use Tua. Tua, after the 9:30 game, was asked by the media, like, "Hey, you're in Milan, you're in Spain. What other European city would you like to see the NFL play in?" And Tua responded with Honolulu, Hawaii. Tua, I just don't know if you know this, but Honolulu is not a European city. It's actually an American city. For you to, we really like to play a game in Honolulu. I think he doubled down on the statement by saying, where did he say else? He said somewhere. Oh, he said a non-city. He goes, what did he say?
Jerusalem.
Yeah, Jerusalem was next. He goes from Honolulu to Jerusalem. So I really think CTE is catching on a little early for you. And for that reason, you got to be kidding me.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Jerusalem.
It would be a crime against humanity if we do not study Tua's brain for
oh my god,
postpartum. Like after he's I should say postmortem, not postpartum. Because the things that guy says, it's insane. It is insane week to week with him.
The other one I wanted to use was the Yankees. They sent a qualifying offer for Trent Grisham, hoping he wouldn't accept it so they can get the draft pick. And he went out and accepted a $22 million qualifying offer. And now they're like mad that he accepted the offer. They sent it so they can get the draft pick back, because no one really accepts these qualifying offers. But maybe you should look at your payroll and realize that Trent Grisham made $5 million last year.
Oh, $22 million.
The qualifying offer was $22 million. Yeah, Trent, I'm going to sign that.
Sign me up. Send me another one next year.
I thought that was hilarious. I just wanted to bring that up.
No, that's cool.
Gonna pass it to you, brother. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, so this week, got one little bit more of a somber one here. So this week, grandmother had been sick, battling cancer, and today she did pass away. So I was up in Cleveland up before the show, which ultimately led to our later start time, just getting back to Columbus here. But she was one of the ones that behind the scenes that she would watch our show pretty regularly. Whenever she could figure out how to work Facebook and, get it on her phone, she would pop in. If she didn't see it one week, she'd call me and say, "Hey, are you still," she would call it TV. "Are you still on TV? I didn't see it on Facebook." So definitely, tough to get through, and, family's definitely mourning with that, but, definitely wanted to give her a shout out because, she's obviously one of the most special people in my life there. So, definitely wanted to give her some love there, but yeah, we'll miss you, but I'm glad now that suffering's done, and we get to focus now on taking care of the celebration of life. So looking forward to that here in the coming weeks as well.
I do want to add to that, and I just to be very clear, I'm glad the suffering's over. I'm sorry that listen, me and you both have had family members deal with battles with cancer. The one thing I kind of want to bring to light is she got to meet your baby boy.
Yeah.
And I don't, want to get too emotional with it. It's your whole situation, but I'm truly a believer in signs and feelings. And I know you told me earlier that she was on hospice for like 3 weeks.
Yep.
I almost feel like she held out to meet you, her baby boy.
Yep.
I'm sorry to get all emotional, but
no,
I'm really happy for you and Audia, and I'm sorry for the loss in your family, and I want to pay my respects as best I can. And so sorry for your loss.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it. I know. It's funny because I'll give you guys just kind of peek behind the curtain here. B and G definitely don't talk on the phone as much as we used to, but with it being a 2-man show, got to have some conversations about the show. And obviously I know today was a big day for you. You kind of told us everything that was going on at the beginning of the show. So conversation means more than so I know you understand it. And it's nice to that this show and sports, and you talk about it being a distraction, how it just really just brings us together and get through the tough times. So glad we're still doing it.
I appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, look, I wish we'd talk more. We used to work close together, but I'd love to talk to you more outside. And at the end of the day, I still feel like you're a family member. I still feel like I care about you a ton. I look at your family as extended version of mine. And I remember going to your wedding out there in Ohio. That was so cool, so awesome to see that happiness. And man, it's fun to celebrate people you care about successes in life. So love you, care about you, and my prayers go out to the entire family. So thank you so much for what you brought as a friend, what you brought to the table, and it's great to talk sports with you. So I don't want to stop the emotional talk. Today's a memory of life for my family with my dad, my uncle, and my grandpa. The 19th has 11/19 is another person that we'll remember a year from today. So
yep, absolutely.
That's what we got tonight. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. We were a little late, but we still brought you a show. I thought we brought you a pretty good show. Pretty good conversations. Good back and forth. Next week, we'll have Shally back. We miss him. He'll be back next week. He's at an event right now. He told us he didn't want to be here. He didn't want to see our faces. But he'll be back next week. We'll talk a little bit more sports. Next week's Thanksgiving Eve. So it'll be a fun conversation. Good show. Be safe out there.
Absolutely.
I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzek. That's Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, Papa Cottrell. And we're missing Scholastic Shally, but we are signing out.